Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Good Bit podcast. Thank you very much for downloading today's episode. Very, very grateful and thankful for your time. What another incredible film we're going to talk about today on the Good Bit. It is an absolute game changer in terms of animated films and just the way that films of that genre and that time period were made. This is Shrek, everybody, from DreamWorks. And joining me is my good, close, personal friend, one of the Good Brothers, Andrew Mundt. We are here, ladies and gents. Andy Mundt's with me. How are you, my good friend?
I'm very well, Chris. How you doing?
Good, man. It's been a long time coming having you on the pod, and I put the casting call out, and you jumped on, and I'm very grateful for that. However, I'm going to need to ask you for forgiveness straight away because I have workies outside, right? Not for me, for the neighbours. And so it's now currently 1 p.m. in the afternoon, right? But they started this at 8:30. And understand that's like a regular time to start doing construction work. But people are sleeping, you know what I mean? And like people have been on the night shift. Like, why do you need to start at 8:30 in the morning? It's brutal, man.
Yeah, I live across from Hampden,
All right.
and they're totally redoing Lesser Hampden just now, which is the little Astro pitch just outside it, because that's going to be where Queen's Park play their home games.
I see.
But they're like totally ripped the ground up, destroyed the clubhouse, and they're rebuilding it from scratch. And they like to work on occasions at 7 o'clock on Sunday mornings.
Sunday mornings.
So, yeah, Sunday mornings. There are so many things wrong with that.
No, there's.
So there have been stern words shared, so I feel your pain.
Oh, has there been stern words? See, I just can't do it. I obviously we have a mutual friend, Angie, and she's like, "Oh, I would have had a letter through their door." Well, it's just not me. You know what I mean? I just can't. I can't pull them up for it. You know.
Well, I'm less of a letter person, more of a open the window and scream at them person.
More of a fisticuffs kind of guy. But we also have like neighbours like through the wall that have been getting stuff done and stuff. And I've worked as like a workie before. You know what I mean? Like that was my first job. I was like a labourer, right after school. And it's just not me whatsoever, as you know. And like just some of the stuff, like people would be like, "All right, go and like hammer this thing," and I'm like, "But it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Like people are asleep. I'm too nice, you know what I mean, to kind of disturb people." And they're like, "Oh no, just do it, man. Who cares?" And it's just not me whatsoever. You get any experience? I can imagine being quite a good builder.
I mean, I like to turn my hand to practical things, but I wouldn't say I've got a large amount of skill in the area.
A lot of DIY involved, that's fine. Well, listen, as actors, you kind of need to do a lot of stuff yourself, you know what I mean? But it's more in a kind of performance way and a technical way. And that's how we met. We met as we both are the same. We are both members of the same acting agency. And that's how we met, right? We kind of met on this like training day. Do you have fond memories of that day?
I do have fond memories of that. Well, I say fond memories. I have memories.
Yeah.
We'll see whether or not they're so fond. No, they are very fond.
Not that they wouldn't be fond, but it's not as particularly. It's not like a great day or
jest.
anything, you know.
No, it was nice. I do remember, of course, yourself and Jack joined on the same day.
Oh yeah.
And I thought you had been hired as a double act, if I'm perfectly honest.
Why?
Just the... I mean, if anyone knows you and Jack, I think it would be pretty obvious.
Right.
If anyone doesn't, just imagine Jack and Victor from Still Game, like 40 years previous. I'll be kind, 50 years previous.
Thanks.
And that was about it. Just very two peas in a pod.
So much so we dressed up as them for Halloween. Look.
Yes, well, bringing that exact dynamic to the group, I must say.
Aye, well, I didn't know that. I just thought. Obviously, Jack didn't stick around for long. He's now represented by someone else. But like, we had a good relationship to the point where like we would do a lot of things together. Like for example, we did a tour together like right after that and stuff. And people would always go on about that as if, "Oh, you're like Jack and Victor and stuff." But it's not. We're just friends from college. It's a bit like you and Josh. Like it's not as if it's like this long thing. It's just that's when you kind of click, you know. But yeah. I'm glad to know that I made a good impression on your first day. I just thought, you start something like a new job or a first day of a class or something, you feel the kind of pressure and you feel like, oh, are people going to think you're too much? But that was a nice chill day, you know. He's got a sneeze.
It's gone.
That's terrible. I really wanted the audio for
that. You stole it.
Sorry. Yeah. So then, in terms of your acting life, I've not seen you in much because I mean, a lot of times when we've known each other has been through COVID.
Yeah,
We met in
absolutely.
2018, so 2 years of that has been kind of taken up. But we've been lucky enough to see each other in person a couple of times. How did you get started? Is it something you've always wanted to do? Have you always been a performer? How did you start performing?
Um, well, I didn't realise that acting is what I really wanted to do until I was sort of coming to the end of school. Um, it should have been something that I realised earlier because I recently found I recently found a school report from when I was in primary one or primary two, and one of the things it said was Andrew responds well to creative stimulus when they're doing a little kiddie drama sessions.
Yeah.
Andrew responds well to creative stimulus and moves creatively to music. And I've just got images of me as a 5-year-old just twerking in the corner. Not that Andrew likes to dance, not that he's a good dancer, but that he moves creatively to music.
Did you have a
Which,
particular song that got you moving?
oh, I've got absolutely no idea. But it sort of makes sense because whenever whenever there's call outs for actors with good movement dance skills, that just immediately goes in the bin.
Yeah, I know.
So I feel like I've carried that on to my adult life. But yeah, no. Um, I remember when I was doing drama in school, and it was just a bit of a laugh, bit of a joke around, and then for one reason I can't remember why, for one reason or another, I got moved classes. In the class that I get moved into, the kids actually took it seriously,
All
and I
right.
was like, "Oh, okay, well I'll maybe take that seriously." And I got up and I done a stupid little scene about shouting at my son because I caught him smoking, and everyone was like, "Wow, he's so good," and I was like, "Oh, this is nice." Like,
Blown away.
yeah, not that I was like unpopular or anything. This guy was just like a very middle of the road, bland kid.
Right.
Um, so to just receive that sort of wow response
Yeah.
sort of made me go, huh, that feels nice. Maybe I'll do that again.
Isn't it funny how it works in school as well when you go and pick drama and a lot of people will pick it for the laugh, and then you do kind of get invested in it.
And the only reason I actually done it in the first place was because, um, I mean, I did have my bad moments in school, and I wanted to pick techie, but I wasn't allowed because of a violent incident with a file when I was in second year, which I didn't start. I hasten
Right,
to
okay.
add. And then when you come to pick your subjects for your standard grades, um, when it came around to that point, they give you the sheet with all the different columns, and you need to pick
Yep.
certain ones from each column. I just went, well, I don't want to do this, so I just cheated the sheet and just didn't put a language on it. I was supposed to do German, and I just put other things on it that I wanted to do. And I got away with it for like 3 months at the first third year. And then the Tannoy announcement came over one morning, and it was the head of the modern language department looking for me, and I was like, "Oh God, here we go." So I went in, and she went, "Andrew, I think you owe me a punishment exercise." And I said, "No, I don't." And she says, "I think you do." And I was like, "Please, please believe me, you did not give me a punishment exercise in your class." And she went, "Okay then, who's your German teacher?"
Oh, no.
And at that point, the game was up. The game was absolutely up. I just had to be like, "Oh, I don't have one." So they took me out of a couple of things, switched classes, and well, they actually said to me, "Which do you want to pick two subjects to drop?" And so I said, "Okay, I will drop something and something." And they said, "Nah, you're dropping PE and whatever, and you're picking up German and drama." And I was like, "Oh God, here we go."
Right.
And so that was that. And when I actually got into it, then it was great.
I
And
can't
then
believe it lasted for 3 months and no one said anything.
I
Like,
know, I
the
know,
school system is broken.
the administrative system of Hill Park Secondary is a sham. Um, but yeah, then it was a girl who my sister was friends with. It was quite a close family friend. Had left school. She's about 5 years older than me. She left school and she went to do an acting and performance course at Reed Care College, which is now West College Scotland Paisley.
Right.
And she really enjoyed it. And I said to her, "Is it good?" She said, "Yep." why not give it a try? I said, yeah, okay, I'll apply. So I actually started 6th year and then was there for a couple of weeks. I thought, you know what, this isn't for me anymore.
Mm.
Skills rotten. Applied for a clearance base in the HNC course and they didn't have any, but they said, we've got the NC. I know you've already got higher drama, but we've got the NC if you want it. So I went in for the audition, really liked it, and I went in from the first day. I was like, okay, this is actually the correct decision. This is what I want to do.
Straight to it, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I did something similar. I didn't do an NC. I did one called an NPA, which I actually don't think exists anymore. I think it's called a National Progression Award. So I would go when I was in like 6th year and I went to Kelvin College and I would do like an acting course and it was a total shambles. Like it was just like no one knew anything that was going on. No one knew who was in charge. We didn't know when we had assessments due and things like that. But I kind of wish I did do an NC course because I already had higher drama, but my school didn't offer advanced higher, so I had to go and do that. And then I went straight into college after that. But it is good to kind of have that one wee sort of year of confidence boosting, if anything else. You know what I mean? To go, all right, I can do this, and I'm all right with
Yeah,
that.
it is. Especially for me, and I think it's the same with a lot of people that get involved in this industry. My whole time at school was littered with Andrew is a very intelligent boy, but
Right.
and whether that was but he talks too much or he distracts others or he doesn't have any focus or he's always falling asleep in class or he's always throwing things at people or always doing a pub. Whatever it was, there was always Andrew's a very intelligent boy, but and I think
He's always singing Rangers songs.
he's always doing cartwheels singing follow follow. But I think in general there is a school is set up in such a way that if you are quite an energetic, creative person, it can be incredibly limiting and inhibitive. Um, Whereas once you get to college, for example, and start doing a drama course or whatever, you are encouraged to, it's not completely unacademic.
Totally.
You do need to be like academically capable and have a level of intelligence.
Yeah, you need to be able to
But
read and things like that.
but you are totally encouraged to nurture that creative and energetic side. So you can go in and put in a hell of a amount of graft and knacker yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally with the amount of work that you're putting in.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you're just having an absolute blast.
Yeah.
And I think it took me getting out of that school environment, which I really hated, to discover that it didn't, because when you're doing it in school, it almost feels, even from other teachers, it almost feels as if when you're doing drama, teachers from other subjects almost it's looked down upon.
Yeah, frowned upon.
It's the easy option, and it's for people who don't want an actual job, you know.
Yeah. I
But I
love the
mean,
kind of like collaborative effort of like drama in school because it felt different than other subjects. Maybe PE was similar, you know, like playing sports with people, but like the fact that you could go in, like you didn't need to sit at a desk. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
didn't need to write all the time. You could literally have a laugh and be rewarded for it. You know, like that was a big turn on for me for that stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. I think it's important for people of all ages, but especially kids that are interested in more practical courses and subjects that it's it they're just as valid as physics or maths
Totally.
or whatever. It's been quite a well documented thing, but through the lockdown period when everybody was stuck at home, all anyone was doing was going for a walk and then coming home and watching hours of TV, playing hours of video games, listening to hours of podcasts and music.
Yeah.
And those are the people that created that are the same people that at school were told, get a real job.
Aye,
And
absolutely. And you know what's funny as well? You were just mentioning like if a spotlight breakdown comes out or something, and it's like, oh, we need someone who's a skilled dancer. You're always just like saying, nope, that's not me. A lot of these things come out in terms of like jobs and stuff. You know, like we need a talented cyclist, a talented volleyball player or whatever. And then if you don't do it at a high level, you just go, nah. But at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, see if you just like if you did it on the side, or you had it as a hobby, or you just even gave it a go and like try to do it. I mean, if you're an actor, you're trying to like pretend that you're doing it. You know, surely you don't need to like just click X on every one of them. Do you know what I mean? I'm very
yeah,
guilty of just clicking nope, 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 nope. But I feel like if you were to give it a go, like for example, I saw one the other day. It was like must be a skilled barista, and I was like, well, I'm not. I don't. I'm not a barista, so that's no for me. But like, you could probably learn and fake it till you make it. You know what I mean? Like, you've got experience doing that stuff. How, could you work that into a scene?
Yeah, uh, these sort of things always baffle me, um, because as you say, obviously there are some things that are highly skilled, and if you don't have a grasp of it, then
Of
you're
course.
going to fail horribly and probably hurt yourself.
Yeah.
But things such as must be a skilled barista, I think to myself, unless this scene is me as a close up of me showing someone how to do a perfect latte art,
Making
then
a coffee. Yeah,
there
like,
is no need for me to be a skilled barista. Um, I mean, set the cup under the thing, press the button, pour in the milk.
that's it.
And that's what it's going to be. I mean, is there really going to be any more detail in the shot than that? And if there is, then I'd be very surprised unless you were making like a corporate video for Costa Coffee.
Right, exactly,
Um,
exactly.
so
I,
yeah,
I can't drive, right? But I went for an audition one time where I had to drive a car through a wall. But it specifically said, like, you do not need that. You're not going to be actually driving the car. You just need to look as if you know how to drive a car. And I'd done lessons and stuff. So I'm sitting in the audition, just being like trying to kid when I'm driving the car and moving the gear stick and stuff. And they're like, "Oh, you didn't look convincing enough." And I was like, "Well, I don't drive. I was just doing my best impression of someone who does drive."
you don't look convincing enough sitting in that chair in
No,
an empty room pretending to
it's
be
not a
driving the
car.
car.
No, no. I always think of that story that Daniel Kaluuya told on Graham Norton. You know Daniel Kaluuya?
Hmm.
And he was like, he put all the accents on his CV because he's like, I'm an actor, I want a job. Just put all the accents on there. I'm brilliant at everything. And they asked him to do like a Scottish accent, and then it came out like Swiss or whatever, and they told him to leave. I always think about that. Like, I will put stuff on my CV, but you need to be careful what you're doing. In terms of other things that kind of brought us together, is that you were a wrestling fan when you were younger. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. I love that whole Attitude Era, Raw's
Attitude
War,
Era, absolutely. Yeah.
all that sort of gear. You know, Undertaker throwing Mankind off the Hell in a Cell. I reference that multiple times a week.
What, Undertaker throwing Mick Foley off the cell?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Anything, there's sort of a running joke to me and my friend Sam where anything that happens like the end of any story, one of us will just go, but don't let that detract from the fact that in 1998, The Undertaker threw Mankind up the Hell in a Cell. As God is my witness, he is broken in half. That man do be cleft in twain.
Oh god, Mick Foley's such a nice guy too. When you sit and watch him in interviews and stuff like that, and he's just talking about how this one moment like made his career, and you think he is dead. That's good. So you were a fan when you were younger. When did you kind of come out of it? Is it just as you were growing, you kind of grew out of it, or did you kind of just lose interest?
I mean, I sort of even when I was in sort of my late teens, early 20s, I kept up with it a bit. I stopped watching it religiously, but all the big pay-per-views and the Royal Rumbles, WrestleMania, and all that sort of stuff, like the Elimination Chambers, was always a favourite. I always enjoyed that sort of stuff. But then, when it sort of cleaned up its act a little bit,
Yeah, not
that
as fun.
coincided with me getting a little bit older again, which the chair shots and the
Right,
the gratuitous
language and
violences
sex.
and language, yeah, just kicking someone in the balls and sticking the finger in their face and then chugging a can of beer. That
Yeah.
was what it was all about for me.
So
So,
when Stone Cold Steve Austin retired, that was the end of your thing.
basically, I never liked wrestling. I just like Stone Cold.
There you go. In terms of other acting jobs, the one thing that I remember vividly in my head seeing you do is you did like a sort of promotional video for Rangers.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
were you like walking through that, or walking on your way to Ibrox talking about the season tickets? Tell us about that because we're both Rangers fans. We've been to games together.
yeah.
Tell us about how you, first of all, how you got that job and what your impression was when you were filming it.
So it was a really excuse me, really unusual job to get. Because there's a lady I know. Her name's Heather Morrison. She's lovely. She's a amateur theatre director, and she's a lecturer at Redcare College. And I'd worked with her a bit, and I had her on Facebook, and she shared a post that she had seen, and it was from a man called Tommy, who was looking for a spoken word artist or a poet or that sort of thing, who supported Rangers. So I messaged him and said, "Listen, I saw that you're looking for this. What is it that you've got in mind?" And he said that he was the head of a production company that produced a lot of stuff for UEFA, which
All
is the
right.
European football governing body. And this was when Rangers were uh, re-entering the group stages of European competition for the first time. So it was the first year back in the Europa League groups with Rapid Vienna, Spartak Moscow, and Villarreal.
Good memory.
Oh, wonderful memory! Absolutely fantastic memory when it comes to football stuff.
When it
It's
comes to
like an
Rangers,
encyclopedia, not just
you
Rangers.
are.
It's like football dates, matches, players, all that sort of thing. I'm your guy, but don't ask me to remember what I had for dinner last night. But I messaged him, and he's a Rangers fan as well. And he said, "I just wondered if we could do something, a little piece. Um, I thought it might be cool to do like a sort of like spoken word thing. We got experience in that. At which point, my only experience was I filmed. I wrote something, and filmed it in my living room one time, and posted it on Facebook just for my own
Yeah.
enjoyment. But I was like, oh yes, I'm a very skilled, experienced, as you do, as we were just talking about.
Yeah.
He was like,
Perception is reality. Absolutely. I'm a big believer in
awesome.
that.
He was like, cool. So this is what we're looking for, and he got me in touch with his. Well, asked me to send a little clip of me doing something over, just so that they could see what I looked like and sounded like on camera, I guess. So he put me in touch with his gaffer, who sent me. He was clearly just like a very much behind the scenes sort of guy who, done the email work, because he emailed me saying this is what we're looking for, and it's going to be an introduction into the city of Glasgow, the history of Glasgow Rangers, high points and low points, the main rivalries that they have, the financial crisis a decade ago, and the impact of going down to the lower divisions, the rise back to the top, and then we'll bring it into present day and we'll talk about Steven Gerrard becoming manager and getting back into Europe. I said, cool, so how long is this going to be? And he says, about a minute and a half.
I feel like, how is this going to work?
And I said, right, okay, mate. So we've got, I could literally produce weeks of material on what you've just asked me
Yeah.
to do. But no, a minute and a half's fine. So I wrote this sort of poem.
Oh, you wrote it.
And
That's cool.
yeah. I wrote it. It was much, much longer
Aye, of
than
course.
than the actual feature was. But so I wrote it, sent it over, and said, "Listen, this is what I've got for all the points that you've got. It's up to you. Like, feel free to tell me what you want taken out." And obviously, slashed it down by a hell of a lot. So we got a final edit, and then I met up with Tommy and love the big Australian man, whose name I can't remember, but he was the spitting image of Peter Crouch, and he was the same height as him as well.
It was massive. Yeah.
He's a massive guy. And we met up and we just went around different areas. We were on Buchanan Street. We went up to Ibrox at the stadium, obviously. We were at the subway. We went up the lighthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went out the lighthouse, the little viewing point up there to get some nice, like,
Very
high up
nice.
video
Yes.
shots. And actually, when we were in there, I saw a few of the staff members sort of like looking at me and go, give me the eye and stuff. And I
Oh,
thought,
he's an
this is
actor.
this
Wow.
is a bit weird. No, they heard that something was happening for Rangers and they thought I was a Rangers player.
Ah, very
And
good.
when I told them that I wasn't and that I was just a simple jobbing actor, they looked so disgusted and walked away without nary another word.
So disappointed. Oh,
Really
right, okay.
disappointed. But yeah, we filmed that, and then the last thing that we filmed was me standing outside the stadium on the night of the game with all the fans going in, delivering my final line to camera, and then walking in the turnstile. And it was just an incredible experience to be able to produce your own work and
Right.
then have it filmed and have it shown all over Europe, because it was part of the UEFA Europa League magazine show, which gets shown literally in every country in Europe
Yeah.
and further afield on other continents. and for it to be on something that you're so passionate about as well, was just such a brilliant experience.
Huge honour. That sounds
Yeah,
good, man. That sounds a lot of
absolutely
fun.
loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Tell me about in terms of you watching movies then. Do you have early memories of watching movies, like your favourite movie when you were wee? And if you can you tell us about the first time you ever went to the cinema, if that's a memory that you have?
It is. It's a very, it's a very, very tiny little memory, but I remember it.
Somewhere in the
Um,
back of your head.
I remember the first time I ever went to the cinema. My mum took me and my brother to see Toy Story when it came
Great
out, which
shout. That's a good
was
one.
1996, I think, was it?
95, I believe.
Oh wow. Um, well, I was born in January '92, so
Okay.
that is a hell of an early memory. Um, but I do remember it. I don't remember much. Obviously, I just remember little snapshots of me being scared of Sid and
Absolutely.
of me
Totally.
eating little sweeties. So that's my earliest memory. My first proper memory that I can actually vividly recount is going to see the Phantom Menace
Oh, here we go. Okay.
again with my mum and brother. I didn't go to the cinema much when I was younger. Didn't do anything much to be honest, but when it was really only when it was either my birthday or my brother's birthday. My brother's only 11 months older than me, so he was born in February '91, and I was born in January '92.
And you
Um,
look very similar as well, by the way.
really,
Like when
you
I
think so?
like when I went to your birthday that one time, I came in at the same time as your brother, and I was like, I'm going the right way because that's Andy's brother, and he's walking towards me.
That's mad that you say that because people never think we look alike.
Maybe I'm making it up, but I can remember you looking like. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
No, I mean I do remember you telling me that at the time, but
Aye,
maybe you've just got a keener eye than other people.
maybe.
Um, but yeah, the only time we really went to the cinema was when it was my birthday or his birthday, um, and we went to see the Phantom Menace, and I remember just being absolutely awestruck by it. Just the whole production. Um, Darth Maul was and remains the coolest character in the history of film. People
Okay,
have
bold statement, but yeah, fair.
people have beef with the Phantom Menace. I absolutely love it, and I know that it's
I like it as well.
probably just a nostalgic thing, but I had just never seen anything like that before, and I'd never seen any character like Darth Maul before,
That's that.
and I
And
just
had you
thought,
seen the originals before, like in house,
no,
or is
no,
this the
no,
first time you've ever seen
no.
Star
The
Wars?
first time I'd ever seen Star Wars was going to see the Phantom Menace.
Wow, that's
Um,
that's cool. What about did you like Anakin then? The fact that it's like a young boy in this situation, like you could go, I can relate to that person, you know?
oh, absolutely. I thought
Yeah,
it was
it's so
I
cool.
thought, well, get me in a pod racer.
Yeah, exactly.
Why am I on the 57 back home? Like, get me in a pod racer. I'll scoot us up the road. But no, I remember I went to the Odeon at the Key. I remember me and my brother all the way home just recreating that final fight scene.
Aye,
Aye,
Duel of the Fates.
yeah, and just the ducking under and then the jumping over and then the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in half, and they'll be like, right, I'll go and I'll do it to you, and then we'll swap, and you can chop me in half.
Aye, aye, aye.
That's what
That was a thing with like lightsabers. Like you would like
uh,
choreograph wee scenes and stuff. Yeah,
oh man, incredible. And it's just one of my favourite uh, childhood movie memories.
yeah. I love all the Star Wars films for different reasons, and I've got a soft spot for the prequels because I did grow up on them.
Mm.
My least favorite Star Wars film is Attack of the Clones, but Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith are way up there, like on my favorite Star Wars films. I saw Revenge of the Sith at the Odeon at the Key in 2005, and that was the first Star Wars I'd ever seen as well. And then I went back and watched some stuff. But even to this day, like see after the new ones came out and stuff like that, and then they had like the Sky Movies, like Star Wars Channel or whatever, so it was like
Mm.
always on. Like you'd end up just having Phantom Menace and stuff on. You go, this is actually like good. Like people didn't like it because it was totally different and it was like bad writing and things like that. But it's actually good. Like there's some good stuff in it in
Yeah.
terms of story wise, you know. Never mind the acting.
It's a standalone film. I still really rate it.
Totally, totally. And I do think Revenge of the Sith is one of my favourite movies of all time, period. And I won't hear anything otherwise in terms of Hayden Christensen's acting, because I always liked him. I thought he was really cool. I don't know, that poor guy who plays Anakin in Phantom Menace, though, is it Jake Lloyd? The wee boy who apparently like just was slated for his performance. And like, as a wee boy, you know what I mean? Like, I would find that cruel for me now. You know what I mean? In my
Oh, the
20s.
Steel Horse.
You know, like he did an interview one time. And he's like, "Now I just can't leave the house without putting a plastic bag over my head." And you're like, this is a 7-year-old boy. You
Oh
know,
dear.
it's dreadful, man. But I do love Star Wars. Cool. So then when we were organising doing the podcast today, I said, "All right, we're getting people on. You get to pick the film. What's your favourite film or whatever we can talk about?" And Andy, within I don't know hours, can I do Shrek? And I was like, "Yes, you can." So tell us, why did you bring Shrek to today's podcast?
You know, I thought about there are so many films that I absolutely love, um, and many of them are dark,
Right.
gritty, dramatic, incredible emotive acting performances. But in terms of if someone ever says to me, "What's your favourite film?" the image that just pops into my head is Shrek. And I'm not saying that it is my favourite film. I mean, it definitely is one of. I'm
Yeah,
not saying it is my
it's hard
absolute
to pick.
top favourite film, but I think it's just an incredible film for so many reasons. Um, I mean, going back to the whole nostalgic thing that we were talking about, when I was a kid, we only ever went on one family holiday. We couldn't really afford to go on any holidays, so we only went on one holiday, and we went down to Blackpool for a week in 2001, and that was the week that Shrek came out. And one of the things that we did was go to see Shrek.
Nice.
So not only was it part of my one and only family holiday that I had, it was also the first and only time that me, my brother, my sister, and my mum and dad all went to the cinema together.
Wow.
So my dad didn't keep well, so he wasn't really out much, but in a nice little period of health, we managed to get away and do some really nice things.
Nice.
And Shrek was one of them. And I just remember all five of us just absolutely gutting ourselves at so many different parts of it,
So many good moments.
which is just a brilliant thing. And there are now so many great films that have um, that can be enjoyed by literally everyone from
Yeah.
cradle to grave, as it were. But I feel like back then, animated films especially weren't as completely catered towards all age groups to
Yeah.
satisfy every little niche need. So just remember sitting in that, and it was the first time I'd ever been in a different cinema because the Odeon at the Key was the only one I'd ever been to as well.
Right.
So all these things together, it just made it a really special experience, and it just so happened that the film was absolutely brilliant.
It's a class film. It is class. And I do think, obviously, you say animated films were kind of catered to more kids and stuff at the time, which is totally true. And I also think like adults would approach animated films as kid films. So they'd be
Mm,
like, all right, okay, we'll watch, whatever, The Jungle Book or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, which is, well, whereas I think Shrek, Toy Story, and maybe The Lion King are like the first few animated films that even, I mean, I also think Shrek is more catered to the family than The Lion King is in Toy Story. I think obviously Toy Story is Pixar, so it's more catered towards kids, but at the same time,
mm.
I never thought adults got that impression that they didn't want to watch Toy Story. But I think those three films really changed the game, whereas now you're getting plenty of animated films that within all of them, the writing is like catered to everybody. There's so many, like in Shrek especially, and it's more so Shrek 2. There's so many like innuendos and stuff like that that just go
Yeah,
completely over your head as a wee boy. You know what I mean? But the adults are sitting there going, "That's class." Do you know what I mean? Like you just didn't have that before. So
absolutely,
that's a good point.
absolutely. And yeah, as I say, I feel like it was a real seminal moment for um, animated films, certainly in Western cinema, anyway. Um, and it just sets such a high bar
It
that
does.
there are some things, for example, the horror genre.
Mhm.
If you take that, there are some real seminal works in from years gone by where you watch them now and you're like, oh, I can see why it was good at the time, but by today's standards, it's you know tra- kind of trash. If that came out today, it would be like meh, probably poor reviews. But it did really influence a genre, so it's really important in that respect.
It did
Whereas
well
with
at the time, yeah.
Shrek, 21 years after its release, I still struggle to find something that will overtake that in
Right. So
terms
if,
of,
like, for
of
example, if Shrek
being
came out
drawn like
now,
film.
it would still have that kind of
Yeah,
high.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. There has been a lot of good films after. Um, in that sort of genre. But I feel like if Shrek came out today, it would still blow them out the water. And I think that's a really testament. It's real testament to the the quality of the film.
Yeah. You look at the greatest animated films of the last 5-10 years. I think of things like Moana and Inside Out, Wreck It Ralph, Onward, Frozen, even Tangled. These films are loved. You know what I mean? But you can easily put Shrek in the conversation as being as good, if not better. You know, and as you say, it did come out 21 years ago. So,
Absolutely. And it's all these films that you talked about in the sort of past 5, 10 years, whatever. Um, these films have started getting churned out more and more and more. So it's to the point where it's like, well, what's the big release this half of this year in terms of like a Disney Pixar or
yeah,
that sort of thing? And these films that you mentioned are all absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love Wreck It Ralph.
yeah.
I absolutely love Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6 is great, yeah.
It's so good.
I love the bit where Baymax comes in, he's losing air and it's like he's drunk. It's so good.
It's so good. Just see those moments of, and I guess that actually goes back to what I was saying earlier about having the freedom educationally to just be creatively intelligent and just really playful. Those innocent moments, like Baymax coming in, losing all the air out his body, and he's stumbling about as if he's drunk.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. It's just so funny to everybody.
It's very wholesome too, like someone thought of that idea.
And I mean, I do enjoy a bit of dark comedy and dark humour.
Course.
And the more adult stuff, like I don't just have the mental age of a 7-year-old. But for me, there is something in finding that universal humour that no matter whether you're 2 or 92, you find it funny. I feel like it seems simpler because it might seem like I don't want to say childish, but it might be viewed as a more sort of like childish type of humour.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like they
Um,
almost they don't get as much credit as maybe they deserve because they're looked at in a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely. But as I was saying with going to see Shrek in the cinema, me looking at, so what would that have been when that came out? 9? I would have been 9 when that came out. So my brother would have been 10. And my sister a few years older again. And then mum and dad in their 40s. And all of us, and indeed everyone in the cinema, just absolutely howling with laughter. I think there's just something so wonderful about being able to provide that. And I think there is something so difficult about that as well. So that when you get that spot on, that
Yeah.
it just becomes such an incredible thing.
It's a comfort film for you, you know what I mean? Because you'll watch it and you'll just always go back to either that memory or just you'll still buckle, you know, because
Yeah,
it is so funny and stuff, you
absolutely.
know. I always preferred Shrek 2 to the first one, right? Only because I saw Shrek 2 at the cinema and I didn't see the first one at the cinema. I had Shrek 2 on DVD, didn't have Shrek 1 on DVD. Do you know what I mean? So I had like a wee soft spot for that more. I also had the Shrek video game for the PlayStation 2. I don't know if you ever played it. I can't even remember if it was any good or not, but I just have like, I think it was a Shrek 2 video game anyway, but it was like you had to go and collect lots of things and it just went on and on and on. And you played as Shrek and you would fight the bad guys and stuff. And it was like pretty violent for like a kid's film, you know? Like, I was so used to playing like the WWE video games and stuff. So I was just like used to it. But I can imagine like a young child who isn't into watching, you know, choreographed violence on a weekly basis, playing the Shrek video game and being taken aback by it a little bit. And another reason why I love Shrek so much is because I was very lucky to go to Universal Studios in Orlando
Mm.
when I was wee. And there's like a Shrek bit, like a Shrek exhibit. And it's someone in a Shrek costume who doesn't speak because it's a big mad ogre costume. But also there's like a donkey thing like in the wall. And it's like an actual person like behind the wall with a microphone doing an Eddie Murphy impression, like talking to the customers and stuff. And like I remember standing, I don't know what we were doing. Maybe someone was at the toilet or whatever. But we went to go and meet Shrek and Donkey and got a picture with them and stuff. But it was more so me waiting to go and meet them and just watching the donkey character interact with other strangers. And the guy was just hilarious. Like you would think it was Eddie Murphy. You know what I mean? Like he was just so funny, slagging the customers and stuff. You know, like so I always think back to that. And then when I went back when I was older, it's like still there, like the same. I don't know if it's the same guy. Sounds exactly the same. You know, and like there's something about the fact that Donkey, played by Eddie Murphy, is such a funny character in the movie. I felt like he was like one of my favorite movie characters. You
Yeah.
know, and it's a donkey. It's an animated donkey, but you still relate to him because he's so funny. You know.
Yeah, everybody loves that damn donkey.
Yeah.
Um,
I have to go save my ass, as he says. Very good.
no, you're absolutely right. I love Shrek 2 as well. Shrek 2 is
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. The part towards the end where, Jennifer Saunders as the fairy godmother is so exquisitely good
Aye.
when they're having the big ball and she sings Holding Out for a Hero.
That's so good.
That whole scene where, Shrek's the human at that point and Donkey's turned into this stallion
The
and
stallion.
they're charging in, and it's honestly one of my favourite scenes of any film. I just
It's
absolutely love it.
the giant gingerbread man.
Yes, the giant gingerbread man, whose name is Mongo. Um, I baffled me as a child, baffles me today. Anyway, um,
Yeah, that's Shrek too.
yeah,
I love the bit where Donkey goes, and in the morning I'm making waffles.
oh, how many times over your life have you heard people say that?
I
How
know,
many
and
times?
that like voice and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
it's such a
I know we're talking
quotable
about Shrek
thing.
too, but like when they're in the kind of carriage going to see Fiona's mum and dad, he's like, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there?" I just absolutely howling when I was wee. There's plenty of funny bits in Shrek One. I love the bit where it's like the dating show for the princesses. It's like, which princess will you take and stuff, and like it's so funny. And like at the time, I was a young boy who didn't know much about like other princesses and stuff like that, right? So when you see Fiona, you just assume that she's like this big deal, and then obviously later on she becomes just Shrek's wife or whatever. But um, I just thought like it's such a funny scene, and I don't get it at the time. It's like a dating show. I don't know if it's like Blind Date or whatever it is. I didn't even know what the rip-off would have been for, but like that's another example of like a joke for the adults that will laugh and go, "Oh, that's a segment and a callback to
Yeah,
this,"
yeah,
whereas we just think it's this funny moment.
yeah, absolutely. And there are so many, so many parts like that.
Yeah,
There's obviously the and Shrek was a big a big blow to the sort of monopolization that Disney had on the uh,
right.
animated film scene, and the executive producer at DreamWorks and the executive producer at Disney. I can't remember their names. Don't ask me to remember. Um, used to work together quite closely, and they had a huge falling out.
Oh, really?
And yeah, a lot of the things in Shrek is subverting the classic fairy tales.
Yeah.
And when when Shrek and Donkey arrive at Duloc and the little scene pops up and they sing the wee song,
Aye,
the little
that's good.
little figures, welcome to Duloc.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's just such a a real two fingers stuck up at Disney for the "It's a Small World" type
Yeah.
thing.
It's a tiny, tiny
Yes.
world.
And I just think that's it's so funny that they managed to just get this. Well, do you know what? F you, Disney.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Which is so good. But yeah, there's, as you say, obviously the whole thing is based on so many references to other parts of culture and all that sort of thing, and even the ogres are like onions part
Yeah.
that is taken from Peer Gynt, which is like a really revered classical play.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
And that note that the a man is like an onion, so that's taken from that, which
Right.
you would never know because especially when Donkey then turns around and goes, "Oh, you leave them out in the sun too long, they go white and start sprouting little hairs." You know? So it's just that marriage of that complete um, like deep intellectual academic literature sort of
Aye.
reference followed by the stupidest little childish joke.
Yeah.
When you put those two together, I think it just creates magic.
So many good one-liners from Eddie Murphy, but also, I mean, the fact it's such a good cast too: Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, John Lithgow.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant, and it is one of those things where the cast has just come together perfectly. Um, I know that when Shrek was first sort of touted by Steven Spielberg in the early 90s. And I know that he originally wanted Bill Murray as Shrek and Steve Martin as Donkey, which,
Really?
if it had happened, I'm sure would have been absolutely brilliant.
Steve
But
Martin as Donkey would be, it'd be a whole other thing.
absolutely brilliant. But now at this point, you're thinking, why did they ever want anyone other than Mike
I
Myers
know, I know.
and Eddie Murphy? And they actually offered Shrek to Nick Cage, and he turned it down.
That wouldn't have worked. Well, it might have done, but like thinking now,
We'll,
it's
we'll
like,
never
why
know.
would
But
that? You know?
yeah, but I feel like that's the. I mean, these are all such well established, respected
Right.
actors, and yet when you hear, "Oh, this person was touted for this part, or this person was offered this part," you think, absolutely not. Why would they ever do
Aye.
that? That's a horrible idea, and that's only because the performances that were given by the actors that were cast were absolutely brilliant. And I think you can just, I think you can just tell how much they enjoyed it, the process,
Exactly.
and just how much joy that they had doing it. Um,
It's
and
the mark of a good film, isn't it? When it looks
yeah,
like they're having fun too.
it's all done so perfect. Even like John Lithgow is 6'4".
He's a wee guy in this.
He's voicing Lord Farquaad, who is what, 4'10" or something, and it's
Aye.
just so. But he just captures it perfectly,
Aye.
and that just, when you have that sort of like insight afterwards, I just think that makes it even funnier. That sort of thing.
Yeah. And like we kind of learn about that later. You know, you got that makes so much sense. Isn't it funny when like they cast something that is so perfect, you know, and then you can't even imagine. Like for example,
Oh,
like Avengers and things like that. Like the talk was it was meant to be Tom Cruise was meant to be Iron Man, and it's like
oh dear,
what? You
oh
kids
dear,
can't
dear, dear.
imagine, you know, it not being Robert Downey Jr. You
No,
know, like
yeah, it's just when someone takes a role and makes that their role, then that's that's all you can ask for, really, in terms of an actor giving a performance. There have been many things that have been remade and rebooted with uh, other actors cast in
yeah,
parts that weren't in the original. But you don't bat an eyelid, or you don't really care. But if someone was to say, for example, there was going to be a Shrek reboot and it was going to be different actors, I feel like the world would burn within days, because the
there would
people,
be riots.
trust me, the people would not stand for that.
Well, listen, they recast the Lion King, they recast the Jungle Book, they've recast Batman and Spider Man 100 times. You
True,
know,
true.
maybe it'll happen.
And not to take away from any of the actors that were in the originals of these, but I don't think your layman on the street could tell you
Right.
who voiced character A in this film, for example, or character B in this film. Whereas I feel like everyone knows who was in Shrek, other than, as I say, that Mufasa remained as James Earl Jones
James Earl Jones, yeah, that's
from the
true. It
original.
could have been anyone else, you know.
Could
Because
have been anyone else, and that's the thing. Like they did recast the rest of it, but there was no way that they could recast James Earl Jones,
no, of
because
course,
who's going to live up to that?
yeah, exactly. You're dead in
Nobody.
the water immediately.
Absolutely
Um,
nobody. He is Mufasa.
he is the king of the jungle,
Exactly.
and Darth Vader. We were talked about wrestling earlier on. I love the bit in Shrek where they're in the wrestling ring and it's like the competition to see who's going to go and rescue Fiona.
It's,
I just, and as a wrestling fan, as a wee boy, I was like, Dad, look, like it's like the wrestling in the thing. Like it was such a big moment for me to really, attach myself to, you know.
yeah, and that scene has also got one of my favourite lines in the film as well, where Lord Farquaad is saying, we're looking for the man that's going to go forward and rescue the princess and bring her back to me. It's going to be this long, hard, arduous journey. It's going to be this task, blah, blah, blah. And he finishes his grand speech off with, "Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make." As if he's like so noble and humble and like, "I'm willing to do that for, for you guys."
It's brilliant.
Was
It's
it
brilliant.
just a
I love
champion?
it.
That's the word. They're looking for a champion.
I love that Fiona's a martial arts expert for no reason. Like it's so funny, like the jumping kicks in slow motion, like
Yeah.
Jackie Chan. Like it's so good.
It's so good. Well, and that's another one. Like when she's fighting all of Robin Hood. Well, it's not Robin Hood. It's Monsieur Hood. When she's fighting Monsieur Hood's men
It's
in the
so good.
bush, um, she does the split double kick in the air,
Aye,
and time stops, and it's the Matrix thing.
Yeah.
which is just another brilliant reference. But obviously, Cameron Diaz was pretty much fresh off of Charlie's Angels
Oh
at that
yeah.
point, and so she had just done a hell of a lot of martial arts training. And I was reading something that said that when she was recording for Shrek, that she would, get really into these
Yeah.
scenes, and they really amped that part of it up just for her after realizing like just how into it she was, and that she would just suddenly like do a flying roundhouse kick and then scream something in Cantonese, which again is
I don't
just
know that.
so entirely unnecessary, but it just shows you the depth of joy that they had
Oh, Princess Fiona. Yeah.
creating
Like,
this film. Yeah, which and again, I mean, I could just recite the whole film to you in terms of favourite lines
no,
because the
please
whole
do.
thing is so good. But in that in that scene when Monsieur Hood has his little song and he sort of like breaks it down into like a bridge and he goes, "When an ogre in the bush grabs a lady by the tush, that's bad." And I was just like, "Oh my god, that is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life."
An ogre in the bush.
When an ogre in the bush grabs a lady by the tush, that's bad. I just think that's objectively funny.
Great writing. Great. There's so many good ones. So many one-liners. Um, the next question I'm going to pose to you is the biggest one. What do you think of the donkey and dragon relationship?
I,
Go.
I think it's so funny. It's so
And
funny.
he like sweet talks her.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
man, you looking fine.
yeah. And he's like, and you're a girl dragon. Oh, well, of course you're a girl dragon because you're just reeking of feminine beauty. It's just, it's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous, but it's just, again, it's just one of those things that it's like, well, of
Aye.
course they're a couple, and of course in later films you're going to see that they've got little
Kids.
little donkey babies with dragon wings. It's
Oh man,
ridiculous, but it's so good. But
that's a good one.
Hollywood's favorite couple.
Aye. Anime's favorite couple. I don't know about that. But yeah. So just to finish up, then. So in terms of Shrek, from now going forward, every time you're going to watch it, what is it going to mean to you going forward? Is it still that comfort film? Is it still when you look back on so fondly? And how much does it hold up? I think you pretty much answered that question throughout the episode. But what do you think about Shrek going forward?
I mean, I don't think I'll ever tire of it.
No, me neither.
Um, I don't think I've actually watched it in quite a while, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's so ingrained in my psyche that I don't, if I want to watch Shrek, I just close my eyes. And
It's in my head.
I can replay the full damn thing. Um, but so Shrek 2 is on a lot on ITV2. I don't know why. It just does. ITV2 seem to have this little group of films that they just like to
They
show.
always show, yeah.
Cyclical group of films. And Shrek 2 is just one of them. And so I'll always just pop it on. And then I feel like my original Shrek needs are just fulfilled with my daily quotes from the film.
Aye.
But I mean, it's just such a wonderful film. And yeah, I just absolutely love it. I'll never grow tired of it, and I don't think it'll ever get old, to be honest. Everyone I know absolutely loves it. And it's just so universally adored that it's a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece. I love in Shrek 2 when Puss in Boots comes and takes off his hat. He's got the big eyes. He's looking sad, like that meme that's now a big thing. Like I just used to find that so funny. And then the bit where he kicks him in the balls, Donkey
Oh.
kicks Shrek in the balls. It's so funny.
Just when you're mentioning memes, that's another thing. Like the amount of internet space that is taken up by Shrek memes, gifs, quite questionable fan fiction,
Aye.
all that sort of thing. There is so much. Like it is just the impact that it has had on our generation is
Big time, man.
insane. Like I don't know how it was for other generations before the internet,
Before
but
Shrek.
I feel like Shrek just fell in that sweet spot of
Yeah.
our generation of not really having the internet to then, really bringing the internet into what it is today.
Being super exposed to it. Yeah.
And somehow that has culminated in just this multiverse of Shrek content. I went on Instagram the other day, and I went to post a little story, and I'm not on it particularly often. I'll post a little story once every few months, but went to post a story, and the first suggestion of a filter was a Shrek filter.
So like, I need to use it.
And I was like, well, I know what I'm doing for the next 2 hours. Send like this Shrek, and it's just so daft, but like, of course it is. Of course, every meme you see is a donkey meme, and of course, every filter
Yeah.
you see is a Shrek filter, because it's just sort of just pervaded the consciousness so much that it's just such a thing. It's just
The,
there.
the meme I see the most from Shrek content is the All Star song from Smash Mouth.
Yeah.
Like it's
Oh
always
yeah,
that
yeah,
somebody once. Like,
yeah.
first of all, why was that the theme song? But also such a great theme song, and it's
Mm.
like that song is now known as the Shrek song. You
Oh,
know?
absolutely. What's that song from Shrek? It's
Aye,
got
aye, All Star. Yeah, it's like
oh,
goes
you know
immediately.
that song to start Shrek. But yeah, it's the start when he's been in the toilet and he kicks the door open, and it coincides with that somebody,
Yeah,
and that is just like, I don't use TikTok, but
no, me neither.
I'm reliably informed that that little sound is
Aye,
like used, so it's like one of the main sounds used on TikTok now.
very popular. Yeah,
Yeah, and people just like make their videos to it,
yeah,
and everybody knows what it is. Like,
yeah.
there's nobody
And
that's like, huh, what's that little bit of audio come from? Like, everybody knows exactly what it is, and
you know
that's
how
what
when you
you
play those
use.
like quizzes, it's like name the movie song or whatever. Like I feel like Smash Mouth All Star comes on like one of the first guesses. You know what I mean? It's like one of the first options is
Uh,
the Shrek song. It's just it took over. And I don't know if it's because it's like early 2000s and around that time, like bands like Smash Mouth and Blink 182, Bowling for Soup, Limp Bizkit, like all those
mm,
songs were like really in the charts and stuff. And it became like a kind of thing of pop culture at the time. But I still think if they were to use a classic song like that for a current film, not All Star obviously, but maybe a song from around that time, it wouldn't be as effective. It's the fact that it's
mm,
that choice with
yeah,
that
yeah,
film.
agreed.
So even in the second film with like, as you said, the Jennifer Saunders song,
Hold
and
on.
did you not sing "Living La Vida Loca" as well at the end of Shrek
Yes,
2?
yes, which is because Antonio Banderas is Puss in
Puss in
Boots,
Boots.
and so he's just singing it with this thick Spanish accent,
Yeah,
and that's so. Oh man, I know we're trying to finish up, but I just keep rambling on. But that is another great moment from Shrek 2, and is it Flashdance when she pulls the rope and all the water, just like when she's sitting on the chair.
oh yeah, yeah.
But
That's right.
Puss in Boots does that when he's singing "Living La Vida Loca." When he's on the stage and he's on
It's
the chair.
Flashdance, yeah,
Yeah,
1983. Yeah,
yeah, and all the water just pours over him, the cat, and it's just all those beautiful little references. And it's because it's not a piss take. It's like
exactly.
it is a proper like paying homage to them, to these
Yeah,
like classic cinema moments.
coughs up a fur ball. Hairball. He's like dying. He's like,
So good, so good.
so good. All right, man. Thank you very much for joining me. Where can the people follow you on the socials? You got a Twitter?
Yes, I do. Oh God, you caught me out there. I believe
Can we get it for you? I'll get it quick.
my Twitter is so it'll just be at and then my name, which I'm going to have to spell out because no one knows how to spell my name. So it'll be at Andrew, spelled the usual way, underscore Mundt, and that's Mundt. So it's at Andrew underscore Mundt, Mundt, where you'll see
There you
me
go.
tweeting about all manner of things, including shouting at politicians, shouting about great things that Rangers are doing, and being generally a social justice warrior.
Yeah, there you go. Where does the name Munt come from? Can I just ask before we leave?
It
Like,
is
I've never heard the name like that before.
no, it's quite uncommon. It's a German name.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it was my great. Now let me work this out. Great grandfather. It's either two or three greats. Grandfather was German, and his wife was Danish, and somehow they ended up in Scotland.
Yeah, cool.
And then it's just come down from there. Yeah.
And it's a cool name. I always thought it was cool.
Thank you. It's
And
quite neat.
you can book Andrew on Spotlight if you want to go to the Bridges Actors Agency website and the actor profile. He's on there.
Absolutely. Or you can follow me on Instagram at ATMint. My middle name's Thomas, so it's just at Mint.
At
At sign ATMint.
like one of those Star Wars big walking camel
Yes,
things, the
I am
AT-ATs. Right, thanks, man, and thanks everybody for listening and watching to the Good Bit Podcast. Take care of yourselves. We'll catch y'all down the road.